Good morning, everyone. This is Ron. It is Saturday morning, so we'll go ahead and get started with our session. And as usual, well, let me just stop and say, you know what? I hope you guys had a great week. The weather has been terrific here, at least in South Carolina. The humidity is gone, at least for now. It's still a little cool at night, but it's been beautiful, beautiful weather. Nice time to get out and go for a walk or something. So I hope where you are it's been pleasant, and I hope you've had a good week. Okay, and with that, we'll see if we have any questions or comments.
Good morning, Ron. This is Vermel. I do have a question, and it's to you and Sage. Last week we talked about gradient, and I wanted to ask the question. So when we talk about the tree of good and evil, is that a gradient too?
Gradient. Say that word again. I'm not quite
Gradient,
understand.
shades.
Gradation.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Pastor, please.
It is, yes, because no one is totally unripened and no one is totally ripened. So it is a gradation.
Yeah.
So our journey in learning who we are, we're going to have shades of awareness and unawareness till we grow, not tell, in our growth.
We're going to have them. Yes, we're going to have shades of unripeness and ripeness. And what we are talking about every single time we meet is making every effort for our desires to be realized. And our desire being realized means that we want to have fewer and fewer moments of unrightness. Our desire is to be right.
Thank you.
The Enoch is an example of being totally ripe. So, yes, we will have those moments. Thank you.
Explain what you mean about the Enoch is totally ripe. I'm not sure I know what an Enoch is.
Pastor, are you there? Hello.
I think we might have lost him, Ron.
Okay.
Or is he on mute?
I was hoping he was just on mute. Okay, we must have lost him. If I can fill in just a little bit, Enoch is in the Bible, is in the Old Testament. He's the one that walked with God until he was no more, and that's what our understanding so far. Because I want to take a closer look at Enoch. It's how did he do the thing that we tried to do, and I even looked at Enoch. Was that a selfish act, or was that a necessary act to bring about revelation to us in the earth? So, yeah, that's Enoch represents a person who walked with God.
Okay,
And you find.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Is that the same as Elijah, too?
Elijah was very similar. Elijah is the one left in a chariot, I think, that left. The angels came and got him in a chariot, but I don't remember the story, so I don't want to say they were one and the same because I don't quite remember. If somebody else does, please help me out.
I just dropped. I just got back in.
Okay. Okay. Pastor, she was asking about Enoch. When you made that statement, she was asking for clarity, and I was trying to explain to her who Enoch was in the scriptures, and she was asking that was that the same as what Elijah did? What happened to Elijah? So, if you can enlighten us, please.
Both of them left the earth. Both of them left the earth in a similar way. However, there is no indication that there was unripeness in Enoch, but there was some unripeness in Elijah because of some of the things that he said and did during the course of his journey on the earth. So they were a bit different in terms of their journey, but both of them left the earth similarly. They knew when they were going. Excuse me. And Enoch just walked into the spiritual realm, as opposed to Elijah being carried away in a chariot, which means it was almost ceremonious. If you think about what happened with Enoch, you can compare, with Elijah. You can pretty much compare it to how Jesus left. He went up out of sight, and he was no more. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you both.
You are.
Good morning. This is Kathy. Ron, I have a question about what you just said about it being Elijah leaving. No, Enoch, I'm sorry, leaving. Was it a selfish act? And so I guess I've never thought of it as being a choice, because I was thinking that when we have fulfilled our purpose on this side, it's time to go. So could you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by, was it a selfish decision to leave, or what you're seeing when you say that, please?
Yes, ma'am. What I mean is, there's more to it than the words that are in the scriptures, and I've dug to try to find some information on that. When I see someone in the earth that just leaves, mankind was struggling as far as finding his spirituality and understanding who he was. And Enoch found it and he left. Did he have a choice to leave? And the unfairness of my question, I guess, or my quest is, I may know more now than I did when I first started the inquiry, because I see the characters now not as people, but as personality traits or characteristics. And I don't understand that portion of man that just left when there was a struggle. There are some writings out there that he's credited with having done and pulled together, and I've looked at some of it. So he didn't just leave. There's some things that he left in the earth as well. But I just wondered that he see a portion of self that he saw an opportunity to leave, and how did his leaving better mankind? But that is the whole journey. And I have yet to pull that portion together. So maybe I misspoke. Maybe I just should have said I don't understand his leaving just yet.
Okay,
Is that
that
under?
just gives me,
Um,
that gives me reason to pause and reflect because I've never seen it that way. So now I'm just very curious about what you said.
Yeah, I've always, that is
yeah,
always, I, I, yeah, go ahead, Pastor, but I've always just kind of dug to kind of try to find more information on him. And like I said, I found there's a book out there that he's credited with having written, but it doesn't give any insight to his leaving. But if
go ahead.
well, only thing I was going to add, and I apologize for cutting y'all, Pastor. Only thing I was going to add is if we now what I understand of death, the little I do, I guess, is like, for example, if I take Jesus, he didn't just leave, he left an essence for us. So the essence is a deeper awareness of self. It changes who we are when we turn to it. Is that what Enoch did? Did he leave us some type of essence? That's the kind of thing I'm looking for, searching for, trying to understand. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pastor.
Okay, based upon how we have learning to view the named personalities in the scriptures as conceptual as opposed to individuals. I see Enoch as being an example more so than being selfish in that we were being shown that it is possible to become enlightened to the point that you become one with the light without having to exit your body. You are no more, which means that you have become enlightened to the point where your neutrons and electrons are transposed into neutrinos, and once that happens, you become total light. Your body, everything becomes light itself. I think it's an example. It's telling us that we can do that. That opportunity is present with us, and I believe that Enoch's circumstances were reiterated in the manner which Jesus left and returned. I'm done.
Okay.
Just another factor of that. Enoch's name means dedicated, trained, disciplined. And so the attribute of Enoch speaks to dedication and being trained, I guess, in spiritual things and discipline enough to follow through with and to live that kind of life.
So then what you're both saying is if we take the path that we're on right now, the amount of dedication, the amount of attention that you give this, and we are training each other as we do this and as we transform into this light, is we're in the process of doing this right now. So the Enoch then points to the path that the human takes in recognizing who he is and becoming, using whatever means that are available in him. I'm trying to keep from saying darkness, but darkness is very much necessary to become light. So he used that totally and kept his focus to become what he was to become. So what he left for us then is that path to do that, or to show us that that can be done.
How are you
Is
seeing
there more?
darkness in this?
Hmm.
How are you interpreting darkness, for instance?
For instance, I'm not sure I understand. I'm saying
Seeing dark. You said you were trying to
You're
avoid
breaking up.
saying
Could
dark.
you're breaking up,
Yes.
Pastor? Could you say that again?
He said that you're trying to avoid using the word darkness.
yeah.
And
I
I
don't
wanted
wanna
to know why.
we 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 uh we read Enoch's story as we do most of the stories in the scriptures, and it does not give us a sense of timing or how long things take. When it talks about him walking with God, I take that to mean his journey. So all of us have a journey, but he made the decision that his journey would be with Elohim. So in every aspect of his life, no matter how long that took, his steps were in line with those of Elohim. And so that tells me when I talk about darkness, I'm saying that there is an aspect of spirituality that is known and that which is unknown. And his walk, when it says he walks with God, then he is walking into a new place of awareness, which means that he wasn't always there. So that's what I mean by darkness. He could see through his eye what was there, but he walked until he walked into it, till he was overcome by it. I'm trying now to see it from the perspective of what I've always kind of contemplated, I guess, and plug it together with what I'm hearing you guys say. Pastor, are you back with us?
Yeah.
I wonder if this is people lived a long time back then, but in comparison to some of them who lived a long time, Enoch lived 355 years.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if this is not to say that something happened, but because he walked with God, it's just saying that he was either taken or left or was no more, because he walked with God, and it wanted to take the emphasis off longevity, that you can be righteous and walk with Elohim and leave early. And it doesn't mean that you sinned. It doesn't mean anything. It could simply mean that your purpose was fulfilled, in a sense, and that it has nothing to do with longevity.
Yeah, I see something in what you're saying. If I'm understanding, the walking with God and the leaving till he was no more. I saw that differently when you said that, because again, I in the scriptures, you go back and you look at, he says, if you do this thing, you will surely die. That death is the way I see it anyway. is a recognition of a different place of awareness that I am no longer. Ronald Johnson has created an image of himself. He's created the aspect that you see and you know that the world knows. And walking with God, I allow that to die or I kill it because I see the soulful self and that is what I embrace. So could it mean the walking with God just means that the Enoch allowed his essence or his soulful self to become who he is rather than the person that the earth knew. So he became completely enlightened in spirit, not saying that he even physically left the earth, but maybe he did it in a way that he was no longer himself, no longer recognizable as the person that people used to know. In a sense, and I'm asking the question, I'm not saying that, definitively, but any one of us on this phone, if somebody had not seen you in 20 years, you are not the person that they remembered 20 years ago. So could that be part of what you're saying as well, or am I simplifying it too much?
I'm back.
I just think it's curious that in this Genesis 5, it relays the years that Adam's descendants lived, including Adam. Adam lived 930 years. Seth lived 912 years. Enosh, 905 years. Enon, 910 years. Mahalalel, 895 years. And it says, then he died. Everything was, then he died, then he died, then he died. All of that. Adam lived, then he died. And then it says Jared lived 162 years before he begot Enoch. This is verse 18, 5:18. And after the birth of Enoch, Jared lived 800 years and begat sons and daughters. All the days of Jared came to 916 years, then he died. So in verse 21, this is the first time it changes that kind of tenor, that kind of then he died, then he died, then he died kind of thing. Enoch lived 65 years and begat Methuselah. After Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years. And he begot sons and daughters. All the days of Enoch came to 365 years. Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, for God took him. And then you go down to 25, where it talks about Methuselah. All the days of Methuselah came to 969 years, then he died. So something was different about Enoch's walk, Enoch's life, Enoch's essence, in a sense, than his ancestors or some of his descendants.
Barbara, did you put Methuselah?
It doesn't say he died. Say again?
What does Methuselah mean? Because did that change his life? Is that when his turning point came?
No, not necessarily, because all of them. Oh, I see what you're saying. Until it got to Enoch, you mean?
Yes.
Methuselah. I'll have to find that. I don't know right offhand what it means.
Yeah, I'm looking.
But Methuselah had the longest lifespan of all of them. I do know that. It means no, that's not what it means. It just talks about him being an ancestor. I'll have to find that.
Yeah, I'm looking as well.
Comes from a word, it comes from two words. The root is found in two words. One is male, and the other one is like a missile of attack or like a spear or
Man of the
a
dark,
growth from
man of the
a growth.
javelin.
Yeah. So, could it not be that he has reached the place in his journey that he desired, meaning that during his walk and bringing Methuselah into the earth, his continued journey, he became more and more enlightened, and that's what changed everything. And out of all of the ones prior to him, they were more like the entity that's deemed to be Adam. Their personality, their attitude was more of the attitude of Adam, which means, excuse me, male and female energies. And Methuselah, I'm sorry, and Enoch was different in that he saw the meaning. He had an understanding of what this entity Adam was really supposed to be or be about, and he learned more about who he is, more so than the rest of them. And in doing so, he walked as he was supposed to in the earth. And rather than him exiting his body and leaving it behind, he was taken, which means that everything about him, with him, inclusive of his body was transformed into a glorious body at the moment that he left, as opposed to having to exit the body and his body be placed in a tomb. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes more sense than, all the others. Then he lived all these years, and then he died, and lived, and then he died. And the Enoch lived the shortest lifespan of those prior to him, but he gave birth to Methuselah, who lived the longest lifespan than any of them prior to him. I don't know if that means anything, but it simply, to me, it just speaks of the essence of a person does not have to be around in terms of man years, in terms of years, in terms of physical years, that it goes beyond physicality, and that Enoch accomplished what he was to have accomplished in a much shorter period of time. He's dedicated, he was trained, he was disciplined, he stuck to what he believed, and when he had done what he was supposed to, he just wasn't anymore. I mean,
I can see what you're saying, Bob. Suppose for a moment that what's being said here is more to being in this earth than leaving descendants. Everybody had descendants, then they died. Enoch brought into earth descendants, and he was taken. So suppose it's telling us that we are here for more than just having descendants. We're here for a greater purpose, that maintaining the presence of humanity on this earth. Suppose it's telling us that our purpose for being here is to walk as Elohim in the earth. The fullness of our purpose is becoming who we were created to be. And none of the rest of them did that other than Enoch. What do you think?
That makes
I
sense.
mean, I
and,
see
and-
that. I mean, that's what we're about, right? That's what we're here for, right? And
Yes, ma'am.
and just by doing that, he set the tone for Methuselah. He did what he was supposed to do.
the irony in this, to look at his age and the 300 years is not youthful, but the early part of his exodus. One of the things that we hold on to is our fear of leaving here, and it sounds like the grasping of what Pastor just explained, our true purpose of being here. He even released that. He even let that go and look at what he gained. So,
And
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
Look at this. Barbara said that he was 65, right? That's 11. So when Methuselah came, that was his gateway. He went through this gate, and in doing so, everything about him changed because his dedication had brought him to into this space that he had desired all along. Was it because of Methuselah? I don't think so. I think the birth of Methuselah is a landmark, marking the moment when he began to see with a greater clarity who he was created to be in the earth, and seeing that his continual movement or his continual desires was to manifest who he was created to be. And the offspring that he gave during the period of time speaks to the journey that he was on and how much clearer he saw it, and then he was gone. Meaning that he had come to that place of enlightenment that he had desired all along. And that is the example that's being left to us. We are not here to be religious. We're not here just to be parents. We are here to be Elohim. I'm done.
I think one of the amazing things that we do, and I want to point out right here, the scripture talks about, especially when it talks about Abraham, the memorials that he left, all the memorials and the wells and all the things that he dug, all those things have purpose, and we look at them and we don't always see or understand the purpose. What we just did was come back to a memorial, because we have discussed this before. I talked to you about my quest and wanting to understand. That came from a discussion that we had trying to see Enoch some years ago. And it made me go back and look at that and try to understand it. So in revisiting that, the transformation shows that, look at the understanding that we have now that we did not have then. Because at 10 a.m. when we got on this phone, we had no idea we were going to discuss this. So nobody had any material pointing this way. But because of the journey, because of the desire for truth, and the what did Barbara call it, the dedication uh, truth revealed itself to us. Light came out of the darkness uh, because it was darkness, because it was confusion. I even said, I questioned whether or not it was selfishness. So, in the midst of the darkness, in the midst of the confusion, light came out. So, we just lived the scriptures. A memorial was revealed to us to bring about clarity, and it speaks also to the extent and the value of the journey.
Suppose one of us is about
Say it one more time, Pastor. You broke up at the end, please.
say, suppose one of us is about to experience that. What do you think about that? If you were the one, that was not rhetorical.
Nobody ever asked that question before, so we're thinking about it.
Esther, can you repeat that question? I
Okay.
didn't hear the question.
Suppose one of us is about to experience what Enoch experienced. What do you think about it? How do you feel about that? If you are the one. Did you get it?
Good morning, everyone.
Hold
Reb, it may
it,
just be
George.
on my end.
George, hold it, please. I was waiting for a response to, I think, Kathy, did you get that? Because you didn't
I
hear
got
what
it
I
that time.
asked. Okay,
Yeah, I didn't
okay,
hear
go
you
ahead,
the first
George.
time, but I got you that time.
Okay, dear. All right,
It,
go ahead, George.
good morning, everyone. It's probably on my end. Reb, I Reb, and it's probably on my end. Reb, I ain't hearing you too good. Hearing you mean that there's some kind of delay in it or something like that, and that's it, right? And it's probably on my end. It's probably on my end, but I'm not
George,
hearing
It's
you
on my
well,
end as
Reb.
well. It's on my end as well. Pastor, you were coming in and out, and George, you're coming in and out at the beginning of what you were saying too.
Well, it's probably both of
So
us then.
both of, yeah. Rick, is this better?
Yes, sir.
yeah, I can hear you
Okay,
now.
great. Okay. So do I need to repeat that again?
Yes, sir.
I haven't.
You went out for a good little while, and then came in the end of what you were saying.
My question was, suppose that one of us is about to experience what Enoch did in terms of being no more in this earth. How do you feel about that, if it's you?
My answer, I heard you.
I did too.
Yes, I did.
I would say so be it.
Okay.
This is Rania. I thought about that as we're talking about the names and the people. And what I sensed, if you looked at Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel and Enoch and Methuselah and all those folks, is this was, and what you said, Pastor, about Enoch being a concept, not necessarily a person, seemed to me like it was one person going through different stages of their lives. That there was a time I could think of when I was Cain and Abel with my brothers when I was young, or I was when I was all these aspects of as a passage for me,
So as you were talking about that, I thought, what would it mean to be Enoch? And it feels like there are parts of me that, that do attain enlightenment. I've never felt it wholly, though, I guess. Like, I've never felt like only Enoch and have ascended. There are times when I feel like my consciousness has ascended. It's in my life. There are aspects of my life where I feel like I don't struggle with that thing anymore, that I've ascended beyond that struggle, that concern, that thing that used to pull me back down to this earth doesn't anymore. So when you ask the question, that's what I reflect back on, was that sense of the whole Bible being this metaphor in one's life, and sometimes we experience it all. Sometimes we experience only parts of it. I don't know if that answers your question, but I had that thought when you asked, when we were talking about Enoch earlier, and what would it have meant if I was thinking of that, to be Enoch and to ascend. So yeah, I don't. That's just what came to me earlier.
That's not a wrong answer. I mean, that's how you see it, and that's truth. I agree with you that the aspects of, the understandings of the names speak to us in different ways. And I think Enoch is dropped in the middle of all of this for the purpose of us taking pause to understand why is Enoch so different in terms of how it is related in the scriptures. And as far as I know, this is the first time that I have seen, or someone has related to me, helped me to see that there is a difference in Enoch. The others died, and then it speaks of Enoch being no more. The difference I knew, but I didn't see it as clear as I see it now, until Barbara brought it out and put emphasis on it. So the way you have presented what your experiences are is exactly what I'm asking for. But I'm also asking for it from all of us. What do we think? How do you feel about it if this is you? If you are the one who is about to be no more simply because of your dedication and your desire, and your exit is soon to take place. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that? Thank you, Rain. I'm sure there are others.
This being one of the others, there's part of it that is exciting, if that's the word. Sounds wonderful. I'm not sure what to express there, but there's also a part of me that's like, not why me, I guess the why me part of me, like, have I really grown there? That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I think the idea of why me or have I grown to that place is something that you need to ask yourself. Why do you feel like you're not worthy of it? And also ask yourself, who are you to measure whether or not you have grown to that place, when we don't know how to measure that? There's no indication that Enoch knew. It just speaks of his dedication and his desires. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. And I'm going to say ouch to those two questions, because those are really important questions. And I'm going to think on those. But I would say, yes, it makes great sense.
Thank you. Anyone else? I know you're there. You're probably pondering it, but let's see what you're pondering.
Well, I'm pondering. I mean, it's a really thought-provoking question. Because here's the issue. How's that different from if I die today, if I transition today? So the question is, when I transition, and I will, and you all will too, the question is, the question to me is, I've done all that I could do, that I was purposed to do in terms of being the Elohim that I could be. And that has nothing to do with necessarily, you know, I know this may be heresy to somebody, but for me, it has nothing to do with, did I give to the poor? Did I heal the sick? It has nothing to do with that. At that point, to me, it has to do with, for me, have I done everything I can do internally to become the Elohim that I am? Because everything else will fall into place if that happens. So, I mean, it's no different from me going out and transitioning tonight or tomorrow or the next 5 minutes. Being no more is the same thing to me, in a sense, in terms of moving from the physical to the non-physical. So, I mean, just like someone in our lives who's taken away in an accident. I'm not talking about that person in the accident. I'm talking about the effect on those who are left. For those who are left, and for me, who's left after someone being no more in the physical, it just begs the question of, okay, where does that leave me, and what kind of state does that leave me? And I've come to the realization that when someone leaves, regardless of how, that they just walk through another door, they're in another realm. Excuse me. And that I just need to still do what I need to do to be the Elohim that I am while I am in this realm. And that was a lot of realming, so I do apologize.
No apology
Good
necessary.
morning.
No reason to apologize.
Good morning, everyone.
I want to respond to Barbara George. Suppose for a moment that Enoch didn't even know he was about to leave anyway, as we don't know, and it happened. And would that be selfish if you were to leave, or would you have completed your journey, and that's why you left? Is your concern about how the people who you left behind will feel, or is your concern that I don't know whether I'm quite ready to leave those who are dear to me? Is that it? Because if that's it, then the question becomes, are you really leaving them, or do you really believe that there is a place where you will be without having any connection whatsoever to them? So there are quite a few questions involved in this. I'm done. Go ahead, George. Unless Barbara want to bring some clarity to what she said.
My clarity for me is, regardless of what happens, and what's next. That's where I am. What's next?
Gotcha.
Good morning, everyone. In reference to what Miss Barbara stated about um, living in the present and living after transition, two things that I kind of embrace: do all you can, when you can, while you can. The other thing that I embrace is learning how to be comfortable by myself. By myself does not mean that I'm alone. And what I mean by that is, if I transition and when I transition, some people gonna be together talking, and someone gonna say, "Man, you remember when old Quick said, if you want people to take you serious, you need to show them how you reward yourself." Now, whether people agree with that or disagree with that, I'm dead. If you want to live in the physical, which you're going to do that, and if you want to live after transition, the things that we do will, somebody will remember you. You're good, you're bad, you're indifferent. So those are just things I do. Thank you.
I guess looking at Enoch and having more clarity now opens my eyes to something that I did not see before. A couple things. Uh, I have always felt that every man's responsibility in the earth is to mankind, and the enlightenment that you gather and gain is to that end, to show man who he is and let him recognize himself, uh, and live from that place of the soul and walking with Elohim as he did. If I were to leave here, there are things that I see now that I did not see a year ago. There are things that I meditate on, and the understanding that we are not separate at all, that we are one, and what that means. And I'm starting to experience it and see it. And to leave here now in the midst of that, what does that say? Do I still not have, is my understanding still wrong? Because I still would question. I have no, first of all, I have no qualms with dying or leaving here, but in a greater sense, I would wonder how that I help that end that I just explained by leaving here now. So if either if I'm wrong about that and I'm not attached to everything, how does my leaving here help mankind? That would be my question. And the other side of it is, I think, or I know, I would have a much easier time me leaving than I would if some of you left. That would grieve me a lot more than it would bother me leaving. So I know that wasn't part of the question, but that's just something that popped in my head when you asked that.
This is Rainey again. I had one thing to add to that thought I had earlier about enough, which was one of the first things I thought was, what if he, sublimated? like you said, transformed from matter to different state of matter. My was, what if that meant he was able to travel the universe then in ways that we can't now because we're stuck in this three-dimensional space that we live in. So, I mean, outside of what's good for man, I did think, what would it be like to live that existence of being, of transitioning out of this state of matter, state of existence into another one? And I thought, what could I learn? What could I be experienced that I might not, being in this current state? So that was one thing I thought. But I did think, what if he came back years later, now, to tell us that's what happened and that's what he experienced? So kind of related to what Ron just said. How does seeing that affect mankind then? Which was part of the thought I'd had before, is in order to know something like that, he'd have to come back and tell us,
Suppose that energy or the essence is already telling us. Suppose that every time we talk about or explore the content that's hidden within the concept that's labeled as a person's name, that energy becomes more of a part of us. We're recognizing it more. And the more we embrace it, we become it. And in doing so, in the case of Enoch, suppose Enoch is the beginning of Jesus, in that Enoch left and Jesus was an example of what happens when Enoch leaves, that there's always space for you to come back and be in the midst of those who you left, so that they will understand not only your leaving, but understand themselves and their journey in this earth better than they ever did. In the case of the apostles or the disciples who were afraid to leave their abode, but at the same time, once they did, they became master teachers of what they had been taught. Well, this is where we are now, and our movement from these bodies does not mean that we are going to have to be in a constant state of light. Rather than that, we are able to be as Jesus was, meaning that we are able to manifest in the bodies that we left with at those times when it's necessary for humanity to reevaluate itself for the purposes of remaining in a state of balance or a state of harmony. Suppose that's where we are at this juncture, at this stage of our desires. And that is right across the door sill. And all we have to do is step through the next gate, and we'll be able to do as Jesus was able to do. How would you feel about that? Are you willing to embrace that? These questions I'm raising, I can't say I don't know where they're coming from, because I do. They're coming from the Creator. And I believe that we are on the precipice of this experience. And that is the reason it's under discussion at this moment. And the discussions help us to be better prepared to embrace it when we experience it, as opposed to asking the question that was raised earlier, why me? Or as opposed to being afraid of what we were experiencing or doubting what someone else is experiencing. Suppose that's where we are at this moment in time, that's on the precipice of transitioning from time to eternity in terms of spiritual eternity, not eternity in terms of what we've been taught in church, but in terms of this space of spirituality. Any discussions or questions or comments about that?
I don't have a question, but I see it. I just it's something you need to ponder. That's all. Something you need to think about.
I don't think that by any means that we are in a state of dying. I don't think that at all. I think that we are in a state of living something that we have never dreamed of living and having experiences that we never knew were available to us. The question, the only thing that keeps us from crossing that door seal or making the next step or going through that gate is whether or not we are embracing it in totality. Do you really believe it's possible? Do you really believe that you are the one? Do you really believe that you are Elohim? Do you really believe that you are the deliverance for all of humanity? And the you of whom I speak is not an individual you as much as it is a plural you in terms of you all or us. Where do you stand on that? The willingness to give up everything for this harmony is not necessarily giving up your life. The way we talk about giving up your life is more about giving up your desires and aspirations and being dead to all of those material aspirations that we've had and the religious beliefs that we have been indoctrinated with, giving up all of that and being the one who stands out to the point where you are ridiculed for what you believe in and what you see. Yet you do not bend, you do not step back from what you know the truth to be, and no one is able to make you doubt because you know beyond any doubt who you are and your purpose for being brought into this earth. Your purpose being not only to bring harmony, but also being an example of what that harmony looks like. Are we at this place right now that the body type or the journey of Enoch, the body type or journey of Jesus are beginning to merge to the extent that we really are one with the universe? There is unicity beyond doubt with the universe to the extent that the unripeness becomes a distant visitor rather than a constant visitor. The unripeness becomes more and more foreign as our desires began to strengthen. Have you given any thought to those questions? If not, give thought to them and let's see where we are with that. As for me, I am at the place where I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I just don't know. Well, I say I don't know. I have not been shown what is necessary for me to be in the state that I just described. However, I am willing to do whatever it takes to be in that state, releasing all, whatever all looks like. I readily do that, not just at this moment, but have desired to do that forever and a day. So I'm in a continuous state of releasing whatever self looks like, releasing all for the purpose of being everything that I was created to be for the purpose for which I was created. I'm done. Thank you.
Anyone else, any thoughts or questions?
I do, Ron.
Yes,
Sage
ma'am.
just gave us to think about. Is that similar to what Abraham did when he offered his son up for a sacrifice?
I honestly have to say, I don't know whether it is or not.
Okay.
However, I do know that he was 27, which is 9. I do know that 3 times 3 is 9, which means that he was completely dedicated to doing whatever whatever Elohim, whatever the Creator asked of him to do in order to experience that unicity with the Creator.
Thank you.
Thank you. What other
So-
questions? I'm sure that there are questions.
I have a comment. So then, if in fact we are one with Elohim, and we are, that very oneness is what brings us into that state of eternity. Is that not so?
Yes, ma'am.
Because Elohim is limitless, is endless, is all of those adjectives you can use. So living fully as Elohim in the now is eternity. And whether that's living fully as Elohim while we're here or living fully as Elohim beyond physical existence in another realm, it is that oneness with the Creator that is what makes us eternal as the Creator is eternal. So eternity can be now. Eternity is now when we see it that way and when we experience it that way.
I see that.
I guess I feel myself in a kind of a different place, something new. I agree with something Pastor said. There's no coincidence we're here. I just didn't see this discussion. This discussion marks where we are, I think, in that journey of discovery and finding truth or becoming truth. And this just another example to me of being in a place I've never been before, I guess. And to ask those questions and taking your mind there, just yeah, just a little different. That's all. Doesn't overwhelm me so much, but it's just different. So
For me, the discussion also helps me understand and with much more certainty that it doesn't matter who talks about nuclear war, who talks about the end climate change, who talks about the ravages of the next pandemic. I mean, those things are nothing compared to oneness. And so it just helps me see and put in perspective that all of that chaos and the turmoil around me does not overwhelm me, and I have less fear than I would have had a year ago.
yeah.
I would love to hear from some of you, some others, because in the last few moments, just only a handful of us have been speaking. I would like to hear what some of you, especially some of the facilitators, what you see, what you're experiencing at this moment. And the reason I raise this is because the experience that I hear from Barbara, from Ron, the experience that I'm having in myself, the experience I hear from Rainier, they're all the same but different in terms of making an attempt to translate or to interpret them. At the moment where I am is honestly where I have for so long desired to be, and that is having escaped a state of flux and being in a place of stability, more so than I've ever experienced in my life. That stability being not ready to embrace, but having embraced everything that we have discussed in relationship to the connections, the unicity between Jesus and Enoch, their experiences, their purpose, and how both of them not only embrace those experiences, but live them. That's where I'm experiencing that right now. And I have no desire to be removed from it or for it to diminish in any way whatsoever. Where are you? Some of you who have not spoken, but I know you're having thoughts and experiences, and you're making comments and raising questions in your mind. So let's talk about this for a few moments. Thank you.
Well, this is Richard. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't have quite this. Okay, there it is. Looks like it. Okay. Well, let me just say I'll just say a couple of terms that I think characterize where I am or what I'm feeling. And it was initiated by a health event that I'm going through. I feel that I can say at least a decade or more, I have slowly allowed myself to drift away from what I am now rediscovering, I guess I can say in myself, and if the words aren't right, just forgive me, or they sound too egoistic or egotistical or something. But I guess one's self is an important and key component of everything. So I would say that the terms that are guiding me now is becoming, which is the journey, and reconnection, which I guess you could say is sort of the goal, but I don't think of it as a finish line you're trying to get across. I think of it interconnected with that sense of journey. And I'm starting to feel more, to some extent, as I felt earlier in my life, when I think I was more a part of all of this, which gives me a sense, a positive sense for whatever I'm going through and what's next. And well, and a certain joy. And all of that helps create a certain, what? Ability to withstand the things that come at you or you see that come at other people. It's sort of a little bit, it's related, I guess, to what we were talking about last session or before about intention and then being. And of course, I had a little discussion with Nick after that. And the concept of to be is being within the truth of what you intended. And that will help strengthen and give you courage to pursue things, to keep going, and also give you impetus, maybe, if certain actions, if you feel certain actions are appropriate. I don't know if that's a little bit of gobbledygook, but maybe I should just stop there. But that's what I am sensing from this. And I really feel that my listening in and not talking very much, I think I talked for a whole decade too much before, so fine. And I like what I'm hearing in others. Although, yeah, like you, Pastor Richard, I wish more people would let go of this notion that wherever you are is somehow less than where somebody else might be in your perception. It's just all part of the journey we're all taking. So to be more open and free with what you feel, but you have to find that confidence in yourself to let go of that and then realize how everybody on this phone will gather around you if necessary to help lift you up in that direction. But anyway, I'm thankful for all of this, even if I'm quiet, but it helps me in my own meditations, which I'm taking up again. In all honesty, I let go and was letting it all get back too much in my head and intellectualize. But now, so what I find sometimes is I'm laughing at some of the struggles that we have on the phone, trying to express all this with words, because for me, the words are getting less important. The feeling is what's important. And I think there's a change in us. Doesn't matter who's at what place in that change, but to let yourself feel part of that change, call it a group that's changing, whatever it takes to help encourage and reinforce. That for me is what's happening in this experience. And I'm sort of find it amusing that it probably is more, it has become more possible, or we're more into it. Maybe not so much because we're going back through the books and the Bible and whatnot, but that's part of it. But also because we're Zooming. I think were we all sitting in a room, it'd be a completely different dynamic. Maybe some of us would overpower others by the presence of our personalities, good or bad. But here, it's more of a neutral territory. You can't reach me, you can't touch me, so I can say what I want. So I wish people would find more courage to just speak what they feel in more anonymity and not worry about what others will think, because people will pick that up and they'll try to turn it into something positive, I'm sure. I think we've acted like, shown that we want to act like that with each other and ourselves. So, okay. I said I wasn't going to ramble, but I did. Sorry. I guess
I honestly don't think you
I
were
guess
around.
I'll say I'm done. Okay. I just dropped the mic, right? Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Rich.
Pastor,
Uh-huh.
are you still looking for our insights on if it were our time, how do we feel about it? Is that what we're still talking about?
All of it. Yes, ma'am. Everything.
Well, with me, when you ask it, it's more so, whenever God is ready. For me, that's what it's going to be. But when I think about it, and with all that's going on in my life, in my world right now, I feel like it would be a struggle because I feel like so much is happening and unfinished, so to speak, that it would be a struggle for me to transition because I feel like, even though I feel like, okay, I'm ready, but I'm not because of my children. And I think about the struggle that they would be faced with in the event like that were to happen right now. That worries me. And I know it's not supposed to, but it does.
I am not sure it's not supposed to, because I don't know anyone with children or with someone they're caring for who would not feel that way. However, feeling that way and at the same time understanding that the feelings are human, knowing that the reality of transition, even if you were now at this moment, also presents an opportunity to bring about a state of stability within the structure of the family or friends for whom you are caring, because of them knowing how you feel about being in their lives for the purpose of stability and saying things like, this is what Mom, this is what Rika, this is what you would want. And I'm going to do everything I can to live up to that. People do that all the time. Sometimes the strongest thing, the best thing that can make a family stronger is when someone transitions. And efforts are put forth more to stabilize that structure than it was prior to that transition. Is not that the person who transitioned was the source of instability. It was that they were the pillar of stability and everyone leaned on them as opposed to becoming stable on their own or in their own right.
Makes sense.
I beg your pardon?
I said that makes sense.
Okay,
I
thank
can
you.
understand and see that.
Oh, this is Richard. I so feel that. I so feel that. It doesn't, to me, I don't misunderstand it. I'm not judging, but to me, saying it makes sense is understating the truth of it. That's real. And sometimes, what do we say when we're raising our children? The big job is to get out of their way and try to help them. And that doesn't stop. If you're a parent, you're a parent until you leave this earth. I find myself fortunate that I feel anyway, in the last years, I've worked to understand Nick and Steve more and what they feel and how they feel about things. And less as a parent and judgmentally, and more as and even less and less as a coach, just as a fan, I guess I would say, if I can help encourage. So if I only get so much more time in this life to do that, I'm going to use all the time I got. And when I go, and I have every confidence that they're going to deal with their struggles, but they've got a lot of strengths that I think they kind of know they have within themselves. And that gives me a certain peace.
I think that where you said you feel that you have that confidence, I think that's what I lack. Confidence at this moment right now with what we have going on.
Well, but to me, some of that you're projecting, okay? That's what confidence is all about. It's all about you. And you, if you really make it about them, that'll fade away. And if you give them a chance to come back and you listen to them telling you, no, I'm okay. I used to tell my dad all the time, I'm all right, I'll be fine. I'm going to stumble around and be lost for a while, but that's because of what I'm coming out of. But I'm going to find some way, because I'm intent to make my life and the lives that I can touch have a sense of worth. So that's why I am so blessed that I get a chance to hear my sons, our sons, tell me what they feel, and that I'm absorbing that, and that gives me strength that at moments in my life I didn't think I had. Okay, so that's what's overtaken any sense of confidence that I've had. I know they're going to have troubles. I just pray they're not big, but we live in a fairly dysfunctional culture, and things can just happen in an instant. But I know that as, what do I want to say, individuals in quotes, I'm just more and more at ease that I kind of know who these characters are, and it's good. It's all good. And it doesn't stop at my sons or our sons. I feel this way about other people. And I think the big challenge we have sometimes is just helping each other realize that those blockages aren't real. They're not permanent. You can knock them down in an instant. You just have to take a step into that truth. Anyway, you got me going, so that's me.
Thank you, sir. Rick, I don't think that it's a lack of confidence as much as it is a lack of being able to see outcome and being uncomfortable with the possible outcomes. And that is one of the reasons that it's so important that we remind ourselves that we are not alone. When we talk and I say to you or to any of us that I got this, that moment, I become your confidence. And they may sound arrogant, but it's not intended to be, it's just reality. I become your confidence. And regardless of how you feel and what outcome you perceive, that is no longer on you. It becomes my responsibility because I have been granted the privilege of being a covering for you and so many others. And by virtue of being that covering, I become, I guess, what the scriptures call that hedge, and nothing can get to you without coming through me. So feel what you want to feel what you have to feel, think what you need to think, whatever it takes for you to get through the day, that's fine. But at the end of the day, know this, the day doesn't end with you being alone. The day ends with us being one. And whatever that looks like or need to look like, that's who we are. Does that help you, Rika?
Yes, sir, it does. It does, and it goes back to, you always tell us, don't wait till things get big. And we proved that yesterday. So it makes all sense in the world.
Well, Pastor, if I can, and then I will promise to be quiet. Let me add to that. I interpreted when we use the word confidence, we're projecting. It's something we're projecting out of ourselves. And I can think when I was younger, and here I am 76, and I can still relive those moments. So I haven't fully made peace with them. I loved my father enough that when he criticized me and how I behaved, it became a burden to me. It didn't help me. And he didn't realize that. But he was criticizing himself at the same time. And I didn't realize that at the time either. And now that I do, it's too late in that sense. So I have to make peace with that. But it's projecting, and the burden when it's somebody you trust and you care for, and you're sort of projecting that wish, if you will, on them, which is really coming out of your own needs, it can be very much a burden. This is where Buddhists understand this very quickly. The giver of a gift doesn't realize the burden they place on the receiver. It's all in the nature of the gift. So the hard thing is to stop short of that and to realize, I don't know what the outcome will be for my sons, our sons, Audrey and my son, and my sons. But maybe I don't need to. I understand that they have growing strengths in them to deal with those things. And they have strong spiritual understandings and bases, even if they express them differently. I'm enjoying understanding finally how they're different, how they're alike, but how they're different. And that makes me feel much more encouraged and gives me more space to focus a little more on my own needs. But at the end of the day, and sharing those with them too. So, voila, done.
Thank you. So I know we're getting close to time. However, I would like to ask again the question as to where we stand in terms of our desires for this experience that we described about Jesus and Enoch. Where are we with that? And what is your experience at this moment? I'm asking, I suppose.
This is Kathy,
Hello, everyone. This is
and I've
Sheldon.
been just. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sheldon. I'll come after you.
Ladies first, are you?
Well, I'm still kind of getting my thoughts together, so if I ramble, please forgive me. But I've listened to what everyone said, but everything that the questions and everything that we talked about this morning resonates deeply with me. I'm thinking about this journey and walking no more, and what it looks like the end of life as we know it, as the transition occurs, and what is left. What are we ready? I heard Pastor say that he is in a place where everything in his life is I'm going to use a different word. He didn't say balance, but it's more balanced than it has ever been. And I look at my life right now and where I am in the journey, and it's just the opposite. Everything is in total disarray and flux. And I am constantly pulling from what is being taught and keeping myself grounded and keeping myself centered. But even in the midst of all of this upheaval, the one constant is that this is showing me who I am. And I'm able to hold on to that and keep centered in the midst of all of that. And I know that there's a journey. In this journey, this is what I am to be learning at this time. I'm learning that I feel that I don't have attachments to things. I love people. I love my family. but I recognize that I am not so attached that I will cease to function. Well, they would cease to function if I'm ready to go because I have no problems in going. That doesn't fear me. And I mean, it doesn't cause me any fear. That doesn't frighten me, is what I'm saying. And I learned this journey from looking at my father's end of life journey and all the things that he went through. I think it was an honor for us to have him with us. It wasn't a sudden death, but it was an opportunity for us to talk and to grow and to prepare for his end of life journey as we knew it, and to watch all the things that the world would have said an unchurched man who knew nothing about God. They would have missed his whole walk just because his name was on a church roll and he didn't attend regularly. It didn't mean that he did not understand who he is and what it means to be I am, because he did. And the talks that we were able to have, and I heard Richard use that word courage, and that resonated so deeply in me because I watched him impart courage to us and to show us death and dignity in death and dignity in pain and suffering and not complaining, but to embrace everything and to pour all that he knew to pour into us, to prepare, as he always called us, his girls, for his transition. And as I think about everything that we've said today, am I ready? Yes, because it's an honor and a privilege to know that I've done what I was sent in this earth to do. And if I walk no more, then I feel that I have accomplished what I was here to accomplish. But even more importantly for me, as I think about this, what was the legacy that I'm leaving behind? Because the scripture talks about passing the mantle. And my dad, I feel like he imparted the mantle to us. I was already a teacher at Greater New Faith. I was already studying these scriptures and have been a part of this community that we are in, this spiritual community that we have built. I've been a part of this for a very, very long time. But the wisdom that he imparted to us was different because it was real life in that moment of this is what I'm leaving behind. I realized that really and truly what I experienced and what we experienced as his children and sitting with him was the passing of the mantle. So when I say, if I leave today, have I imparted that wisdom? Have I imparted that knowledge? Have I given what I was supposed to give? And the honor in knowing that I can say I've given all I know to give, all that I have in me. That's what I've left behind. And someone in this earth, there is a man in this earth, in my family, somewhere outside of my family, in the walk of life this journey of my life, someone that I've impacted along the way that, yes, I pass that on to them so that this thing of self-discovery and being I am and unicity and oneness will continue long after I'm gone. And in the essence of life and in the scheme of things, isn't that what it's really all about? I mean, I don't want to stay longer than I need to be here. I want to do what I'm supposed to do and then walk no more in this realm, but walk now ahead of you as your ancestors, still giving you that wisdom and that insight on the journey of self-discovery as you're looking for who you are, because now I've left that spark in the earth realm for you to explore and ignite in you to look for who you are. So and I know I may be rambling, but this resonates so deeply, and every piece and every part of what everyone has said today, I'm internalizing, and I feel it so strongly in my heart that I don't know. I don't know where we are in this journey. We may be ready to walk no more on this side, but that doesn't frighten me because energy doesn't die. We don't end. We just transcend and change, but we continue to give all that we are. And so that's just where I am in my thinking because, like I said, this question kind of floored me when you asked this today, Pastor, and I've been sitting here just really looking at what I've been through and what others around me have been through, and what am I learning from that? What did I glean from that? And what am I to take from that to make me to be the better person, to open me up to being a better person? I mean, understanding more of who I am so that I can impart that to someone else. And that's just kind of how I see the journey. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Sheldon. Um, this is a very interesting question, a question that I'm not associated with Enoch directly, but it's something that I've been dealing with for many years now. As Miss Barbara said early on, uh, you know, so it be. Um, that's how I guess I feel about the question, but more so now than ever. I feel like I'm in what seems to be a different situation than many of the others as it relates to um, responsibility. And I feel for a very long time now, I've always felt comfortable and ready for transition, but not to be mistaken at all with actually yearning transition or wanting it. So it was never that I was seeking out transition, just having no problem or fear if it were to occur. Um, as it relates to responsibility, I don't know how much of my life has been directed by that thought. If my the way that the direction of my life um, has been the opposite though, whether it directed or has been an effect of that particular thought that I am talking about. And what I'm talking about is responsibility. In regards to responsibility, I noticed that I don't feel like I am necessarily needed for anything tomorrow, so to speak. However, I am willing and happy and a joy and part of, I guess, for lack of better words, my life objective is to give and empower any and everyone to see and feel their power and greatness, and then, of course, with humility as it relates to not overpowering and seeing the unity that they are, that for them and myself in in all of my everyday actions. That is below the surface in the subconscious. I have even thinking about it consciously. In terms of my responsibility and dedication to that, though, it is in the moment. I dedicate that every single day. But at the same time, I haven't dedicated that, so to speak, um, in the next season, in next month, etc. Because more so, I have been living or experiencing the moment, and in those moments, um, I expect to be one and experience the creator and experience myself as the creator. And so, what do I mean by that? I had a thought when we were talking about the idea of being ready to be Enoch, and the part of ourselves that is having a problem with that is I don't know if it's a problem, but the part of ourselves that is having that question is the self that is most acquainted with the material world, the earthly living. So we're thinking about it from that direction, not thinking about it in terms of the us that has always been um, infinite and will always be infinite. And then so not seeing that nothing is ending, things are just changing. And I say that to say that one thing that I seek after is to have those experiences and being open to those experiences and seeing that myself, or like Richard says, definitely a loss of words here, which is the only reason why I wasn't speaking. Not that I didn't have anything for the discussion, so to speak, but just actually putting it in words. Um, I seek now to actually experience that of transition in terms of even being able to experience and see what is not earthly. Being open to that. And I think the biggest overarching thing for this whole conversation is simply letting go. And as we do have problems with that transition, it's the unsurety that doesn't necessarily allow us to let go so easily, because we're concerned with what will happen after we transition if we were Enoch, what will be on the other side, in a sense, because we just don't have full certainty about it. So that is more so, I guess, what I have been working on for a very long time. I believe I'm finished. I don't believe, I don't know what all I've said, but I believe I'm finished.
Thank you. Ron?
Is there anyone else? Okay, it's been different.
Well, let me add one more little thing. And this is directed pretty much in response to what Sheldon said. And I'll just say it very simply. There's a little bit of a separation or lonely, I don't know, loneliness in what I heard you say, Sheldon, and maybe that was misconstrued, that's fine. But whether you transition or not, whether you die or not, whatever word you want to use, you have the right to know and should know and carry within you an understanding of how you are loved by people on this phone. And that's a good thing, and you should embrace, and you have, I ask you to embrace that and have that be part of whatever happens to you and however you leave this earth, etc. And if that doesn't fill you with a certain joy, well, it will. So I'm just saying, I want to express that to you because, you know, what's that stupid joke? If you were hit by a bus tomorrow, all of that I would know is already in me, and I would express that one way or another. So you would continue, you'd continue to live in me, and what I've come to understand that you've conveyed and how you, I don't know what words to use that express it. It's just love. But that's what I want you to hear from me. And I don't mind saying it in front of all these other people. I should say it in front of all these people. We all should say it to each other and know that in each other. So whatever it is, even if there's a moment in a transition where you feel very much, I don't want to say alone, but it's more profound than that. I know that I, in some respects, have come to feel better and understand my father better since his transition, his leaving, his dying. And there's a wonderful little line in a mediocre movie that says that death doesn't end a relationship. And however clumsily that expresses how I'm feeling, and I'm saying it to you, that's what I feel with you. And I'm not singling you out, except for the fact that I'm responding to what you said. So,
Richard, thank you for your comment. I would like to address that, but also the reason why I'm even thanking you for even saying that, because it gives me the opportunity to express this, I guess, more in a way for the others as well, to explain where I'm coming from. In regards to the love, that is not true at all. So, and this is helping me because it's helping me the stuff that I left out. In every moment, in all that I mentioned, I definitely feel and embrace love in every moment. It is the thing that energizes me the most, and that which brings me the most joy. When I talk about the transition, it's not at all that I want to transition by any means. It's just that I have no problem and don't think that I'm actually I am embracing and ready for whatever, because at no moment am I thinking that this is all, this is the best, so to speak. I embrace it for what it is at the moment. At that particular moment, it is the best. The part where you talk about loneliness, the only loneliness has been more so with feeling like at different times I have been by myself in that feeling. So because I don't see death in the same way, in the way that everyone else or most other people look at it. So for example, a few years ago before the pandemic, I had some friends in Jersey that are friends of my family. And over the years since being in New York, they, we became more so like family. They definitely saw me as family. Well, one of the fathers in that family transitioned, and I went to the passing, the funeral, and everyone was. I got off from work at this particular time. No, it was actually in school. I wore a suit to school and everything so that I could quickly after classes make my way to Jersey for the services. And everyone was, just crying and mournful. But at the same time, they were so appreciative, genuinely, that I'd come, and they made such a huge deal of it, just because of how much it meant to them. And then for me personally, I never cry or feel down when someone transitions in the same way that most other people do. And so I started crying. And then I felt like almost like weird and a fraud, because I wasn't crying because I was mourning the transition of their loved one and our loved one. I was crying because I was feeling at the time overfilled with love and joy, because of the love and joy that they were demonstrating and was radiating from their hearts, as that they were so gracious, even while going through this with their loved one, with their family member, that I come over there. And for me, I'm thinking like I'm on the outside. You have a lot going on. Your emotions are definitely dedicated to this elder father figure in your life. Like I'm not that big of a part of y'all life. And so it's in those type of moments where maybe I feel like I'm not necessarily being able to completely share those types of things, just on a regular, everyday basis. But by no means do I not feel and embrace this particular life. And so I just want to make sure that everyone definitely knows and understands and realizes that.
Thank you, Sheldon. Thanks for sharing. Is there anyone else? We have it's right at noon. So it's been a while since we've gone this long, and it's a good place to take a pause, and we'll resume tomorrow. Please, please, please write down your questions or comments. I'm sure Pastor's question, I won't say caught us off guard, but again, I say we entered a place we had not been before, and so as you ponder this and something comes to you, you're a good place to start our journey tomorrow. Okay. So if there's nothing else to grab our attention, I hope you have a brilliant day, excellent day, and I look forward to speaking with you again tomorrow.
Ron, I want to leave
Yes,
with
sir.
this.
Okay.
when I talked about what I'm experiencing,
Uh-huh.
is it's like Sheldon, it's not necessarily desire to transition. That's easy. That's not an issue at all. What I'm experiencing and seeking to have a greater experience of are the experiences of Enoch and Jesus in terms of being no more and returning as did Jesus to assure those who I've been granted the privilege of covering that exiting the body is not the end, and neither does it mean that you cannot re-enter this material world and interact with those with whom you're close, and to interact in such a way that it will show others that that my experiences are their experiences as well. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll, as Ron said, pick up tomorrow.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Pastor. Good day.
Thank you, everyone.